Hello and welcome to the Gifts of Wisdom Summit, featuring the conversations from the authors of the newly published book, Gifts of Wisdom, Practices for Healing and Empowerment by David D. McLeod. That's just released last month, and be sure to grab your copy on Amazon. And this incredible collection showcases 22 authors who each share their inspiring stories and powerful practices to empower and uplift. And for this topic, David, who is the lead author, is talking about buried treasure, the alchemy of purpose, where he explores the hidden potential within each and every one of you that is waiting to be unearthed and transformed into a life of meaning and fulfillment. Learn the key question that, once answered, will forever unlock your purpose and keep you aligned with your true path. Empower yourself to embrace the alchemical process of turning your life's experiences, both good and bad, into the gold of true purpose. Activate the tools and mindset needed to create a life that resonates with authenticity, passion, and fulfillment. I'd like to introduce Janette Stuart, my counterpart.
Thank you, Scott, and welcome everyone. Today we are featuring lead author David McLeod, and he wrote Chapter 1, What Irks You? How to Transform Frustration into Fulfillment. And David McLeod is a certified master life coach and international best-selling author. He shares his wisdom, insights, personal lessons, and expertise in countless generous ways to help people all over the world create lives of purpose, passion, and peace. Find out more at yourlifemasterycoach.com. And the title again of this conversation is Buried Treasure, the Alchemy of Purpose.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And welcome, David.
Thank you, Scott and Janine. I'm delighted to be here. I've had a lot of fun with both of you and with all the other authors creating this really magnificent book, which, I think you said this, it's already achieved #1 international bestseller status on Amazon. So I'm really excited about this book.
Yeah, but what was the greatest gift or surprise during this whole process of putting together the Gifts of Wisdom?
Well, for me, I guess the biggest surprise was that I think I was originally thinking more about elder wisdom. I was thinking more about bringing wisdom from the elders in our community into this world and making people more aware of the brilliance and wisdom of some of the older folks in our communities. But as I was developing this, what I noticed was there were some, what I call younger people like maybe 20 years younger than me, who by their own admission might feel a little bit older, but they were finding themselves connected into their elder wisdom, and they wanted to share their stories as well. And that caused the whole vision of this project to shift away from elder wisdom towards just generic gifts of wisdom. And I think that kind of surprised me, and it was a beautiful surprise, I have to say.
So what you're saying is that younger people have some of that the wisdom also? Is that what you're saying?
Of course. But not only that, some of my greatest teachers are people who are younger than me. In fact, both my boys and my daughter also, to some extent, have given me great lessons in life and helped me to become more aware of what's going on. So absolutely. Yeah.
I can see that within you. And speaking as a parent, I've learned more from my kids, I think, than I ever taught them.
Right.
And Janette, you had a question?
Sure. David, what are you most excited to share with our audience today?
Well, my chapter title was "What Irks You?" And the reason that came up, when I started writing this, I was thinking, okay, what can I write about that's a little different from some of my previous offerings? And it occurred to me that one of the challenges that I faced in my life is dealing with frustration. And what I discovered in the process of my life was that frustrations seem to disappear or at least diminish in frequency the more I got to know the truth of who I really am. That piece of awareness, that knowing, that deep knowing of who I really am, and not who I think I am, not who I pretend to be in the public eye, but rather that real me that I now share much more generously with the world. Once I know that, frustrations seem to be less frequent in my life. And I think that has to do with the other part of my topic, which is once I know who I am, then I can connect to that deeper sense of purpose, that real why about what I'm here to do. What am I supposed to be doing? When I connect to that, then most of my actions and behaviors and so forth are aligned with that purpose. So I don't feel like I'm bouncing around from one thing to another. Rather, I'm kind of focused, and I'm always on a trajectory towards fulfilling my grand life purpose, if you like. Of course, it is a life purpose, so there's a very good chance that the whole thing might not be complete by the time I reach the end of this life. But what I do is I find myself focused. Everything I do now is aligned with that purpose. So frustrations seem to just vaporize as a result of that. I think that's probably the biggest gift that I could share with people.
I look forward to hearing more about it today. Thanks.
Yeah.
So in writing in these books from Brave Healer Productions, I've found that doing the writing becomes cathartic. We learn more about ourselves in writing these pieces than sometimes we can actually express. And what's really the true importance of finding your life's purpose? Why is it so important?
Well, I think I suggested that in my previous response, that when I am aligned, truly aligned with my spiritual purpose for being, everything seems to fall into place. All of life just sort of seems to make sense. The whole, all of the illusions that I see out there when I'm not aligned with my purpose seem to vaporize and disappear. And I tend to find that everything I feel more connected to love and passion and that peace that I was talking about. All of these things come together as a result of being aligned with a sense of purpose. But a sense of purpose can't really come into existence unless and until we learn the truth of who we really are. Because a purpose is really a reflection of who you are choosing to be. So whatever you are doing in the world today, it's a reflection of who you're choosing to be. And the question is, when you look at that reflection, are you happy with what you are creating? Is that what you really want to be doing? And so I found for myself that the more aligned I am with purpose, and I've seen this with other people, the more aligned you are with your purpose, the less you find yourself distracted by other things that have no meaning in your life. It's a powerful process, and it's something that I think we all ought to be doing for ourselves.
So, David, is it possible to find a purpose without answering the question, what is my life purpose?
Well, I think the real question that people have to ask is, who am I? And people have to, this is something that I think all of us everywhere around the planet, and that's why I am saying people everywhere. First, when we live our lives, when we come into this world, we probably have some sense of who we really are. But that sense gets kind of reshaped and sculpted according to the conditioning and the pressures of the world. If people don't like some quality or characteristic that you have, you are strongly encouraged to get rid of it or to hide it or to put it in the background somewhere. And because this starts happening to us when we are so young, we don't really have any experience, if you like, with this life. We don't necessarily know how to push back and say, wait a minute, this is who I am. I am going to show up the way I am. We are strongly encouraged not to do that by our parents. You know, you have to behave. You have to be a good boy or a good girl. You have to do all the things that your teachers say and all the other people in authority. You have to abide by the rules of society. That's the message that we're all fed from the moment we come out of the womb. Sure, we might get oh, look at how beautiful this little child is. And then that's right after that, that's when the conditioning starts. But so what happens is we then immediately go into this state of forgetfulness. We forget the truth of who we really are. And instead, we start putting on all these costumes and masks and personas and roles and everything else in order to fit in order to meet the standards of society, in order to just live up to what everybody else seems to expect of us. And in the process of doing that, our true essence kind of gets way hidden in the background, way back in the background. So how can we possibly have any sense of purpose when we have forgotten who we are? And so what we do instead then is we start trying different things. You know, well, geez, maybe I should be a fireman, or maybe I should be a ballerina, or maybe I should start writing books, or maybe I should do this or do that. And you notice all these shoulds. These are coming from external pressures. They're not necessarily aligned with the truth of who we really are. You know, we're doing them because someone else suggested them. You know, I can think of a very specific example in my own life. When I was 15 years old, I declared at home that I wanted to be a rock and roll musician. You know, I loved playing guitar. I loved singing. It was just, that felt like, you know, that was my natural essence coming out. And my mom said, you know, I love your music, but, you know, you can't have that as a full-time job. I mean, that you have to get a real job. That could be a hobby. That's the kind of stuff that I heard. I also heard other things that were a little more fear-inducing, you know, like for every successful musician, there's a million starving musicians, you know, or you're going to be like Jimi Hendrix or somebody else and you're going to, you know, kill yourself on drugs. So they kind of put the fear into me to keep me from really expressing myself as I truly wanted to be. And that's just one example. And I bet whoever's watching this, anybody listening to this is going to have exactly the same experience. Well, not exactly the same, obviously, but we all have multiple experiences like that in our lives. And our parents aren't, for the most part, I think, aren't trying to be malicious or nasty or mean or anything like that. They are doing what they believe is the best for us. So there's no point in getting angry with them, even though I certainly had plenty of that going around in my life, I'll tell you. The idea is to recognize that they're just doing the best they can with what they've got. And I now have to do the best I can with what I've got, and I can learn from that. And I can say, you know, I don't think I want to treat my kids the way my parents treated me. So all of this, you know, that's a very long answer to a very short question. But ultimately, here it is. You have to first know the truth of who you are, and then you have to have the bravery and the courage to step up and be an authentic being in your life. That's the first thing. Once you start doing that, then the idea of a purpose will begin to blossom within you, because now you're more connected to your soul. And the idea of having some beautiful life purpose that you're here to do, something that's way bigger than you are, that is what starts coming up in your heart and soul. And when you can align yourself to that purpose, when you can find all your thoughts, words, actions, and emotions pointing in the same direction and in the direction of your purpose, like I said, everything just, it's like a magical transformation. I cannot overemphasize that.
And in doing work with clients, what have you found is the biggest impediment, the biggest thing that keeps them from realizing their own true path?
Well, I think, like I said, the biggest challenge is getting people to recognize the truth of who they really are. It sounds so easy, you know? Oh, I know who I am. All right. Who are you? I'm David. Great. Now I know your name. Who are you? I'm a man. Great. Now I know your gender. Who are you? That's about what happens. And the fact is, when I do this with people and I do this repeated question, and it's amazing. I now have a meditation that I call the unfurled lotus meditation, which basically is like the leaves of the lotus kind of opening up, and each one just releases another one of those personas, those roles, those activities. And the more you do this, the more you open up those leaves of the lotus, the closer you get down to the nugget of truth of who you really are. And anybody who does this and who is serious about doing this will discover absolute magnificence at the end of that journey. And so my way of describing the truth of who I really am, it may sound lofty and egotistical and narcissistic, but that doesn't matter to me because it's my truth from the inside. And that is, I am a divine, magnificent, unlimited, sovereign, spiritual being of light and love who happens to be sharing this human experience, temporary human experience, here on the planet with everybody else. Mm-hmm. That is now my truth. And as I understand that truth, it makes it so much easier for me to align with a purpose, right? So the answer to your question is, the biggest impediment to knowing your purpose is to know the truth of who you really are. That's the answer to your question.
So David, you talked about your meditation as being a tool. Do you have a certain other tool or recommendation for folks to be able to find the answer and connect with their purpose easily?
I have a process that I share with people that it's a 4-step process in which the 4 basic steps are simple: dream, behavior, proclamation, implementation. Those 4 steps are what you need to do in order to be able to really connect in with your purpose. Now, it sounds simple. Who doesn't dream, right? Who doesn't have behaviors? Well, not too many of us make proclamations, but that's what I'm going to ask you to do. But the implementation, that's the biggest challenge right there. So this process I do in a series of sessions, and I call the whole thing Life Purpose Ignited. It's a powerful process, and I've done this many times with people, and I'm only now reformatting it as a whole new program that I'm going to be offering. And for anybody who sees this video and would like to participate, I'm going to be offering the first session for free. That whole program, by the way, is a $397 value, but I'm going to give you the first session for free. And then if you want to continue, I'll give you the rest of it for 50% off. That is the deal. It's powerful, and it's life-changing for anybody who chooses to do it.
Oh, that sounds spectacular, by the way. I want to thank everybody for sitting down, watching this, learning more about the authors in this book, and coming in and being a part of this. Again, David's gift is Life Purpose Ignited, 4 Steps to Passion and Fulfillment. And it's one-on-one coaching, valued at $397. You can find the link then as it appears on the screen. And I want to thank each of you for showing up. I know how busy you are. I know how hard it is to be able to find the time to sit down and talk and go through this. So I want to thank you, David, and thank you, Janette.
Thank you.
Thank you both. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom.